Yeah. So the big oils, that's the problem is a lot of these oils. And if you look at the standard American diet, just even 100 years ago, your grandparents or your great grandparents, they did not have access to these type of oils. They were going to be cooking with your traditional fats. Like they're going to be doing a lot of lard and maybe some beef tallow, some of these traditional fats. Like if I asked my grandfather, what did your grandmother cook you? And what did she cook it with? She was not using soybean oil. She was not using corn oil. She was not using rapeseed oil, which is canola. She was not using peanut oil. And if they did something fried, it was going to be fried in possibly bacon fat, which came from the pig in the backyard of the farm, or it was going to be cooked in some type of like a beef tallow where the cows were on the back part of the farm. My grandpa's grandparents had like 300 acres and they had a bunch of cows back there. So it wasn't, hey, we're going to take this canola oil, we're going to coat. What's really annoying is I've seen some gluten-free fish out there, like some breaded fish, but the problem is it's loaded with canola oil. So it's kind of like, do you take the risk? Do you, like the pros and cons? Does the inflammatory component of the canola oil, does that counteract this damaged seed oil? Does that counteract the benefit of the cod or the salmon or whatever else you get? And the answer is I don't know. I think you kind of have to choose your battles. What's your comment on it?
Yeah. So when it comes down to fats, most plant fats are not going to be the best unless they're cold extracted or unless they're minimally processed to extract the fats. Partly because of the processes of extracting, it tends to damage the fats. Because the heat in the extraction process also makes the fats rancid and taste bad. There's a lot of like deodorizing and filtration and different processes to make it more palatable that you would never be able to have in a natural state. So the best plant fats are going to be obviously number one is coconut oil because it's a saturated fat. It's going to be more temperature stable. And then number two would be like either a cold pressed olive oil or a good quality avocado, which is primarily a monounsaturated fat. And then from there, something like a palm, which is more in a kind of saturated state. And then, of course, you can do um, outside of that, an avocado oil would be pretty reasonable. I think those would be my top ones on the plant side. Is there anything you wanted to add there? I mean, there are some nut-based, some seed-based oils, but then you start ramping up the omega-6, and those may not be the best. There are some supplemental oils that are more GLA-based that I'll give supplementally, like black currant seed oil, but we'll give it supplementally, and that's coming from great sources that are going to be in capsules that won't be oxidized and such, that will be really good and wouldn't be an oil like coconut. But those are my top animal or top plant-based fats. And yeah, that's going to be really helpful because bad fats are going to, one, create a lot of oxidative stress, and they're going to deplete a lot of your antioxidant reserves because if those fats are oxidized, your body's going to need a lot of vitamin C and vitamin E to help with the oxidative stress that those fats may cause your body.
Very true. Let me ask you the question about the breading. So like you find a good fish, and it's a gluten-free breading, so it's not covered in wheat, but it's some type of non-gluten containing flour. But then you've got canola oil. Do you think you're still going to be net positive in terms of nutrition because you've still got the good fish, but yet you've got the inflammatory oils? Or would you say just get you some grilled fish and then if you want to bread it, you bread it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence with that. There's a product that we like. I think it's Alexa's, and they have sweet potato fries. And my wife will do that for my son just because it's really easy. But they have a little bit of canola oil in there, so it's like So you have this kind of convenience factor where ideally, if you could, you always would want to put your own fat on there if you could. And my easy saturated fat or my easy fat for cooking that's plant-based would be like avocado. I like avocado because it tastes a little bit more neutral. I do not like olive oil as much. Olive oil is better for dressings, but I'll do avocado for cooking. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. But I would tend to, if you have control over it, you always choose the better fat over the junky fat if you can.
Yeah, yeah, well said. So the interesting thing is like coconut oil and avocado, they've become kind of trendy. And I would say avocado is not going to be a traditional fat, meaning like traditional people were probably not doing it, because you've got to have some heavy duty equipment to extract the oil. But coconut oil would be super traditional. I mean, this would be something that has
Well,
historical use.
yeah, I mean, if you're eating a whole avocado, you'd be able to have access to that. That wouldn't be a problem. But the actual oil portion is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
The,
I'm talking
yeah.
just, pouring it in your pan and cooking something with it.
Yeah, your big fats that are going to be plant based would probably be primarily coconut, but then your biggest ones that I think are going to be used more, long term from generation to generation will be your tallows, right? Your bacon fat, your duck fat, those kind of things, because saturated fats don't go bad, right? They stay good for a long time because the carbon is saturated with 4 hydrogen bonds between them, which makes the fat really, really, really temperature stable.
It's beautiful. All right,
Yep,
so
it is.
we hit the oils. Those are bad. They're bad
Yep.
for your gut. They cause inflammation, oxidative stress.